Thanks for tuning in once again to New York Jets Talk, formerly known as Jets FM on AOFN. This is Inside Our Lads NFL Depth Charts as we talk New York Jets football with Jan Levine. And Jan, I'm not sure how long ago was it since we talked? Was it a free agency
It's
preview,
three
right?
weeks. 3 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because we
three
didn't
weeks. We
talk.
we spoke. We spoke. I thought after the beginning part of free
Oh, the
agency, we
big,
talked
the
about that they
main
hadn't
part.
addressed the offensive line.
Yeah, the
The
main
main
part.
part, correct. We
Okay.
didn't. We didn't discuss the around the edges, which hasn't been that much for them anyway.
Yeah. Well, let's just before we get rolling here, just want to remind everybody this is the draft guide from our lads from last year. So the new guide's coming out in the next week. So you're going to be able to order it. No reason you can't go to ourlads.com right now and place your subscription. This way you'll be one of the first to receive it. Of course, I'll get my guide. I'll also I also will have my own PDF file, which comes in handy. I know Jan's going to get his guide PDF, whatever you say, but he's going to get his information as well soon. So we're all going to be ready for the draft, Jan, and it should be a lot of fun. We're going to have to figure out our schedule for the draft because it's going to be a really huge few days. So we have to make sure we can fit our schedule in the best way possible to talk New York Jets draft football, which now, by the
Yeah.
way, has 21 picks in the next two drafts.
It's. He's going to be busy, Joe Douglas. Let's put it that way. He's going to be very busy. But clear. Look, you're not going to hit on all your picks. That just never happens. Obviously, panacea.
That's why
Yes,
you
we
need
hit on
more.
everything. He may trade down. Douglas has shown a propensity for doing that. But clearly hitting on those in the first two rounds, given the needs, that's where he's got to hit home runs. Let me phrase that. I'm not sure about hitting those. You have to get them right. Hitting home runs, hopefully that where you pick the guy and the guy's the right fit and where he ranks is fine. Clearly, third and fourth round bolstering your lineup is really where he needs to kind of hit that home run. And that's one of those things that I'm sure we'll get into as time moves on. We've discussed after the first plus of free agency what the needs are on this team. Granted, one of those needs we hope is likely going to be filled with the number 2 spot, given I'm sure we'll be talking about over the next several minutes in terms of the trade made the other day. But utilizing that capital wisely and building the team from a depth perspective, which we know, given the pipeline that Douglas comes from in Baltimore, they are very big in using the draft and supplementing it. And he's clearly going to be following that same mantra and guidepost moving forward now.
Well, remember, there was you keep Darnold, you use that second pick to build around him with all your other draft capital, but primarily that second pick. They've traded now Darnold. But the good thing is they have so many picks in the next two rounds, in the next 2 years, 7 of which will be in the first 2 rounds because we get the extra one in the Darnold trade. Throw in the fourth rounder next year from the Darnold trade. And I'm not so worried about that anymore, especially again, since we've got the 2 first rounders next year too. So it's like, yeah, it would have been nice but again, who would have known if Darnold would have worked out? It would have been nice to have that second pick and to use it on something else to build around Sam Darnold. But I don't think that that's something that is that worrisome when you know you have that much draft capital, even after using their second pick on Wilson at quarterback. You're going to have more than enough quality draft capital to still build around a young, inexperienced quarterback, which will be making his first start in September of 2021.
Well, I mean, I think what we can say is, look, my view on Darnold. I think the viewpoint was new regime, new start, restart the clock on the quarterback, right? Carolina's most certainly going to give him that 50 or extend that 50-year option,
They've
costing
already
him about
done it.
$18.9 million, right? So it's $23.5 million over the next 2 years. Granted, Jets get to save that capital based upon where Wilson's going to come in. They didn't do a particularly good job of building around Darnold. You and I have discussed that repeatedly. Look, if there's one criticism of Douglas stepping away from McCagden and stepping away from Gaze, is that last year they didn't do a particularly good job. You know my view on Robbie Anderson. I've been very clear about it. I thought they did a lousy job in terms of negotiating based on the price point. Douglas needs to be a little bit more flexible on what his price point is. He wasn't last year. He wholeheartedly admitted he screwed up. They didn't do a good job of building around him. Darnold didn't do a particularly good job of accelerating and making making it difficult for them to not move away from him because of the way he played. But the Jets didn't build. The offensive line was a shambles again. Wide receiver was questionable. Crowder got hurt. Mims got hurt. Whatever rationale you want to give in terms of what happened, they didn't do a good job of building around them. So fast forward, look, unless something shocking happens, Zach Wilson's going to be the Jets quarterback. What they need to do, though, is use that capital, both draft and also cap space, to build around him, to build the infrastructure that was lacking, right? We're going to talk about the draft. Travis Etienne is one of those guys who is rumored at number 23, 24 to be available potentially. If he's there, he's a home run hitter, kind of a guy you may want to look for building him. Second round, I've seen the offensive tackle from Notre Dame projected as a possible guy in the second round. To me, I would be ecstatic if that's the case, because you're augmenting.
We need some cornerbacks, man.
No. Yes. But again, you also have other picks.
I don't mind Travis Etienne going.
You need,
but we need but we can't.
Linemen.
Look,
you need.
I am telling you right now, they are not going to use their second round or first pick on an offensive lineman. They're not going to do it.
Well, okay.
Because that guy is not going to start next year. They're not going to do it.
I think he will. I think you.
For what reason? To put him on the bench for a year? That's what they're doing. They're not getting rid of their tackle. They're not getting rid of Fant. Fant's not going anywhere.
They can move him inside.
All right, so that's why you can build up your interior a little bit later in the draft. You don't have to have it at the first pick and neglect your cornerbacks. We don't have any corners.
You still have other picks.
So you'd rather waste a cornerback on your fourth pick instead of, and you want to go with a lineman that is a rookie. First of all, you talk about a guy that we get more than enough time to talk about that particular player that I don't think deserves to be where you're thinking he's going. But if whoever the pick is, if he's an offensive lineman, he better start. And then you take a look at the offensive line situation right now. Everybody, let's take a look at the contracts, because again, Fant's not going anywhere. Is it a
good offensive line? Is it a good offensive line?
Right now,
other than Becton.
Right now, it is.
It stinks.
It doesn't stink.
It's okay. Let me rephrase that. It's mildly
when
passable.
They all played together last year, they were okay. They didn't stink.
Mildly passable.
Yeah.
They were mildly passable.
They did it with a quarterback that, I'm sorry, you just didn't communicate very well with the offensive line. It's so underrated how important it is for the quarterback to understand how to help his offensive line with blocking calls. And I don't think there's any doubt that Sam Darnold blew it in that situation. So you got to keep everybody healthy. Look, we all know they're going to draft offensive linemen. I'm not debating that. But I don't see how they're using those early picks on an offensive line. I actually believe that the only way that they're going to improve that offensive line is going to be in the interior, and they're going to do it a little bit later. Matter of fact, I did a mock draft.
So they have what? They have 2/3 in this year's draft, or 1/3?
What's that?
How many thirds? How many third rounders they have this year?
2. So
2, right? So again, if they take a cornerback very high in the second round, right, with their second round pick,
or the high second or the high first rounder,
right? And I'd go for the running back first, honestly. If the guy who's a potential game breaker can be there at running back, I wouldn't mind taking him with my first round pick. I mean, he's a home run hitter. Guy can play all 3 downs. Look, we got good production late by the guys who we didn't think we were going to get, and it may be worth a look. I think they're more backups than starters, but I'd go for the home run hitter. But if you're going to tell me they're going to use a cornerback early in the second round and use their 2 third-round picks on the best interior offensive linemen, I'm fine with that. If again, presuming you pick the right guys and they work with the scheme, you have to augment the offensive line. And you, right now, in my opinion, moving forward, have one true starter on that offensive line.
And we'll find out.
It's Becton.
Yeah, but we'll find out.
It's Becton, in my opinion.
Again, you look at these offensive lines with really good quarterbacks, and some of them don't have all these great players. They're average players that get elevated because of the talent around them. And that's why I think this offensive line is that type of offensive line that if they have better talent. Now, look, it's not going to be any easier with a rookie.
You need better talent, right?
Yeah, which they have.
That hopefully comes by using your draft. Wait, better talent is better talent to add on the offensive line, not around them necessarily. No. Also,
I'm saying you could go either way. What I'm saying is if you look at the NFL right now and you pinpoint certain quarterbacks, a lot of top quarterbacks too, their offensive line, if you take that offensive line out from one of those teams and put it on the Jets with Sam Darnold, their grades would be so much lower because of a young quarterback that doesn't know how to handle his line or the talent around him. But I think right now the Jets have done everything they could, talent around them. Hopefully, like you said, they get a running back in the first round. Now you have a number one running back. Hopefully, we have a number one tight end if Herndon wakes up. And now we've got quality receivers. Now you've built a good cast around the offensive line, and you build up a couple of additional interior. By the way, Cameron Clark was a fourth rounder last year. How do we know he's not going to take a step up this year? That's possible.
But again, it's one is look, this is right. You watched the Super Bowl as well as I did, right? If Patrick Mahomes does not have the maneuverability and escapability that he has, Kansas City would have gotten completely blown out because Tampa Bay was caving that line
tackle
upwards and downwards.
They put a guard at tackle, and they got screwed. It was a bad coaching decision.
Why do you think they went after Feeney so heavily? Because they knew they needed help on that offensive line, even with all the talent that exists on that team. They have tremendous skill position
playing left tackle right now.
They had no choice. But they had no choice but to improve their line, even with all the talent around them.
But that's a team that has everything they need, so they can just go, okay, let's just get one guy, and we're going to be a lot better.
Look,
we're not at that point right now.
No, but Douglas is an offensive line guy, which you would hope he brings the right guys in to improve that line. That's you would hope where his level of expertise is.
Us arguing about who should come in, I don't even know why we're doing that. I've said this all along. I trust Joe Douglas. He'll get the right guys. That's it. That's how I feel.
Look, he clearly made the decision of what to do with Darnold, right? You and I thought that this might be the direction he goes in. I don't know if he got, I wouldn't use the term spooked, but I don't know if the trade up to 3 changed his mindset at all. Clearly, they didn't approach the Jets at all. The Jets were pretty adamant they weren't moving out of that pick. Being pretty clear in terms of what San Francisco wanted to do with that 3rd pick overall. Atlanta's now shopping the 4th pick overall.
What do you mean they didn't contact him?
Supposedly the rumor was that they knew that the Jets were not interested in moving the 2nd pick.
Okay, yeah.
That's the rumors that came out when San Francisco moved up to 3, right? Which gave you a pretty good indication where their mindset of the organization was, which is what kind of played out with the decision to trade Darnold.
Okay.
You knew they were doing it too. The marketplace had dried up to a certain extent. I know people like, the return was great. Look, Matthew Stafford's a whole different animal.
Leave that to those guys.
Stafford's a whole different animal. He went for the picks he went for because type of quarterback that he is. He's at a different level. No, but I'm saying Stafford went for the thing that was a first rounder because I'm saying
I don't want to debate those idiots. I've got 10 minutes with you. I'm not going to talk about what idiots say on Twitter or anything. They're idiots if they want to compare Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford.
The return was a solid enough return based upon where we thought they would get.
So there's no reason to talk about idiots.
Okay, fine. So what do you want to talk about?
Well, first of all, with Darnold, I think that the bottom line is the reason why I'm okay with him going, and I think you know what that is. He was never going to make it here. And the difference between Wilson and Darnold, even if we don't know Wilson's going to be a good quarterback, he could be Sam Darnold, talent-wise. We don't know. But the one thing we do know that Wilson has over Sam Darnold is he's going to bring moxie to New York. He's going to bring an attitude that Sam Darnold never had and was never going to have. And that's why I think Sam Darnold needed to go somewhere else, because he just was never going to be a guy that fit in New York. And maybe he would have been a better fit with the Giants organization, with their history, the way they, their organization's different than ours. But the Jet organization, we need a quarterback with moxie. We need a quarterback because there's going to be so much negativity that guy needs to shove it right back into everybody's faces, and he's the type of guy that's going to do it.
We agree that he has the moxie. We also agree that the talent around him needs to get better, which is what we're hoping will happen. Look, I hope Darnold goes and plays well. I like Darnold. I wanted him to succeed.
Nice
well, first of all, look, as a Jet fan, we all wanted him to succeed again. Whether or not you can argue the mono is,
he's making money. He's got the 5th-year option.
The mono set him back last year. Look, we came in 2 years ago with very high hopes, right? that we had high hopes based upon the
We
talent
did.
that we thought they put around them.
Yep.
Right. Then week one, Mosley goes out in the third quarter, and the game goes to hell in a handbasket when he goes out.
Yeah, but
right?
remember the first game too, though, this past year
I was
against
there.
Buffalo. I'm talking about
Okay,
the
I was
first
there
game
2
this
years
past
ago.
year.
Okay.
Just remember that game when it looked like, okay, second year in the system. Let's see what he was just so bad. That had nothing to do with the offensive line, nothing to do with the receivers. He was just terrible. And it was never any good the rest of the season, really. He just never got any better. And it was like, what do we... So anyway, fact is, I think we both understood that this needed to happen, and we'll find out whether Zach Wilson's the guy or not. I'm just going to quickly go over the mock draft I did, because we did a 7-round mock draft at Our Lads. So I think there was about a handful of guys that write for the Our Lads draft guide. And obviously one of the teams I had was the Jets. So this is how I picked for the Jets. And we did this what did we do? We did the first part, I think, Thursday, second part Monday. So I took Zach Wilson. Okay. I took Travis Etienne with the second pick in the first round. I took cornerback Caleb Farley with the second pick in the first round from Virginia Tech.
First pick of the second round.
The Jets'
in the
second round pick. In the third round, I went with the guard Wyatt Davis from Ohio State, and I went with the linebacker Baron Browning from Ohio State. In the fifth round, I went with the center Josh Myers from Ohio State. In the sixth,
sensing a theme here, but okay.
Yeah, in the sixth round, and this is something we haven't talked about. In the sixth round, I went with fullback Ben Mason from Michigan.
Okay.
They run a fullback with this offense. Kyle Juszczyk was a big part of the.
Yeah, Kyle Juszczyk is more than just a fullback.
We need a fullback,
right? So
and
you find me
Ben
Kyle
Mason
Juszczyk,
is clearly the best fullback in the draft. So
okay. Look, you have that much draft capital, you can afford to spend. I'll use the term.
You better get a good fullback if you're going to run a fullback out there for 300 or 400 snaps. You better be a good fullback. Then I went with the safety, Paris Ford from Pittsburgh, and then my last pick, I picked a cornerback, Robert Rochelle from Central Arkansas. So the bottom line is, I was able to land a guard and a center with the 66th pick and the 107th pick, which again, I think is a pretty good area that the Jets can concentrate on the interior of the offensive line. And one of those guys could wind up starting. Now, maybe not the center, but Wyatt Davis, I'm picking him there to start. I want him to win the job, with one of those fourth round picks. So I think you can get a couple of, the thing I'm a little bit concerned with was by the time I got to Farley, there really is a drop off. If you don't get some of those good corners, like there's a really pretty good ones early, then there's a drop off. So once Farley was off the list, there was like a big to that next level. So that's why I was saying, I think the Jets are going to have to use one of their top two picks after the quarterback on a corner. But I also agree that we have to get a running back. I want Etienne.
And they may, and you could see them. You could also see them with their additional capital look to move up if the cornerback run started and they don't want to get shut out.
Yeah.
Right. You can move up to the back part of that first round, latter part of that first round, without having to give up a ton because you're second in the second round anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would, but yeah, just keep in mind. Look, because I don't trust Trevon Wesco, so I don't. I think they're going to.
I wonder why.
What?
I said, I wonder why.
Yeah. So I think that at some point, maybe in the draft, they'll see if they can get a fullback. If they can't, then they're probably going to wind up. Look, they could probably even get a fullback after the draft in free agency, sign a kid. But keep in mind, that's what they run in this offense. And if they're going to be true to the offense, then the Jets are going to need to add a fullback to the group. Also, as far as some of the other players, because we didn't talk about some of the other guys that came in later on. Dan Feeney, to me, is a backup. Unless there's something that they see in him that they think he's going to go into a different system and that the system held him back. But he was a bad draft pick for the Chargers. He never did anything. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping they see something in the guy that I don't see, that nobody else sees. But other than that, I think it's a good move because you add a veteran backup that if anything goes wrong, at least you got a guy with the starting experience. He's got a lot of starting experience. I think he's got over 57 starts. in 4 years. That's a lot. He may not be any good, but he's got starting experience. And then Croft came in, and I was looking at, should I think about
Croft was a nice move, by the way.
Yeah, he adds the blocking.
Yep.
And then I was thinking
2 tight end sets you can use, 2 tight end sets, which we thought last year was going to be a staple, and it kind of went nowhere.
And I think that there were a couple times that I was thinking about taking a tight end with, where the Jets were picking. So I think the Jets might do the same thing. I think if there's a tight end that slips in the middle rounds that they think, I'm talking a receiving tight end, there are a few of them out there that'll last into the middle rounds. Not a lot. It's not, once you get past that first group, there's a huge drop off. But if there's a guy that they want to take a chance on him, okay, I can see it. But chances are the Croft move, you would think that they're going to at least give it one more year with Griffin, and they're going to keep their 3 guys. And maybe the new staff will give Wesco a chance as well. But look, there's no doubt that on defense, the biggest need is corner. I don't know what they're doing with Brian Poole. I have no idea. This is like last year. Why doesn't anybody sign this guy?
It's exactly like last year. We didn't think he was coming back, and all of a sudden he posted on his own, I think Instagram or Twitter post that he was returning to the Jets, a 1-year deal. So maybe they go that direction again. For all you know, I don't know. I mean, Salah's probably Richard Sherman's still out there too.
Yeah.
He hasn't signed anywhere.
That's probably one of those deals where the Jets are like, "We'll bring him in, but we're not going to pay for him." He may think that we're getting that.
Well, I don't think anybody's paying Sherman the kind of money he wants anyway.
Yeah. So maybe he could come in. Look, when you look at our corners, and here's the problem, is that even if we go and draft 2 more corners, everybody's young.
Right.
I mean, look.
Just sign Marcus May long-term.
Who? Oh, Marcus May.
Sign our safety, Marcus May, and franchise him. It's wonderful and good.
Absolutely.
Lock him up for a couple of years, please, already. We said this 2 years ago. We should have been smart, and they weren't.
Yeah. But then you take a look. With Austin, Hall, even Guidry, I think he's got something. And even Jackson. These are guys that you can build around for the long run. But now if you bring in 2 more corners, you're going to have like 6 corners that you're thinking about building. The only thing I could look at is when you take a look at the San Francisco 49ers, yes, Sherman definitely helped to solidify the secondary the first year. But look what happened last year. Sherman got hurt.
Well, they had tons of injuries.
And they still played good on defense.
But that's because they'd been in the system for another year, and who knows how much Sherman transmitted. Who knows how much Sherman transmitted in terms of knowledge that first year that helped these guys in the second year. That's partly what you bring him in for.
If Robert Saleh believes that's the case, they'll sign him. But that could be part of the thinking is, look, they're going to be able to cover better when they don't have to cover longer, when our front line is going to destroy the opposition. And I just love the fact when I take a look at this defensive line and I see Lawson, Rankins, Fatukasi, Quinnen Williams, Vinny Curry, throw in John Franklin Myers, Nathan Shepard, Kyle Phillips. I mean, even Jabari Zuniga. How do we know he's not going to blossom under Saleh?
Right.
So
he could be moved to an outside linebacker spot, which is what I think is going to happen with him.
4-3. We're running a 4-3. So
so he'll be moved to an outside linebacker spot and kind of maybe be depth there also.
4-3 outside linebacker has got to be a cover linebacker.
He could be again. We'll see what kind of schemes they run. I have a feeling he's going to be creative Saleh, which is what we saw.
I don't see it. I didn't.
That's a lot of.
I didn't see it on San Francisco.
That's not, you've named 9 linemen there.
Who?
You've named 9 linemen.
Yeah.
In that list, that's a lot of linemen.
But that's what I'm saying. That's if you have a really good defensive front, you're normally going to rotate 8 to 9 linemen. That's why there's no way. Some people are saying, well, maybe the Jets will use this early round pick on a lineman. They have enough linemen. They're not using any more draft picks on defensive linemen, but they need a linebacker because you can't count on Blake Cashman. We know they've got the 2 guys, but they've got to get another linebacker, which is why I drafted the kid from Ohio State. They have to get 1 linebacker somewhere in that 4th round range. And then, but again, cornerback is the big deal. We've got 2 or 3 weeks before the draft, before we figure out whether or not they can add a veteran. But that's what I'm going to be looking at more than anything, is to find out if they're going to be able to bring in a cornerback before the draft. I still think they will. maybe it's a trade.
Could be.
You know,
I mean,
maybe
it's possible.
maybe
They still have some draft capital. They don't have a ton of capital left, but there's still some draft room they have to bring somebody in.
But I get the feeling, because we just talked about, they have to get a
Remember,
veteran.
they just ate some dead money with Darnold. Also, you have to factor in now from a cap perspective. So
we need a veteran. We need a veteran to go around these young kids, and I don't think you can wait until after the draft to do it. So anyway, what do we? How much time we have? 3 more weeks.
We're done. 3 more weeks. Yep.
3 more weeks.
3 weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks.
All right. Well, anyway, we may and probably will be back at some point the week before, unless there's a big deal or something. But we'll be back for sure, probably the week of the draft, and then we'll have at least a show or two mixed in during those first couple of days. So it should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
Me too.
All right, Jan. Appreciate it as always. And Sam Darnold, he's gone. No, I guess we did suck for. I guess we did suck for Sam.
We certainly did in more ways than one.
Not only did we suck for Sam, we sucked with Sam.
That's certainly true. Also.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk to you again real soon, Jan.
Sounds good.